Welcome everybody to the webinar today where we're going to be showing eTakeoff for Sage Estimating. This is Tony Mary, Vice President of Sales with ETHOSystems Inc. and we're being joined today by Mr. Darren Pierce, who's the Estimating Field Manager for the Sage CRE division. I will keep it short and sweet with the introductions, and just know if you have any questions during the course of our presentation today, please go ahead and post them in the chat and I will answer them as they come in. And if there's any questions left over, we may open a question and answer period at the end. But first and foremost, thank you all for attending today. And Darren, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Tony. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join in this presentation. Tony might have mentioned this. We're going to keep you on mute during the presentation. If you have questions, go ahead and write those in the chat. And as Tony mentioned, he will answer those as we go or at the end of the presentation, depending upon what the question is. We're going to take a quick trip through the eTakeoff digital takeoff solution and kind of give you a feel for the product. It's going to be very high level and look at some of the hot spots within the solution and then kind of go from there. The last thing we're going to do though is show you how we can, with a click of a button, create an estimate from all of the takeoff that we performed here. So let's go ahead and jump in and get you familiar with the product to begin with. First of all, just to let you know, it is a multi-user environment. So as many individuals you have within your organization that need to be on this plan set at the same time can do so. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. Using a mouse and a scroll wheel, we can move things around very, very easily. One recommendation that I make, and I'm sure Tony would make this as well, the larger screen, the better. I'm not saying a 50-inch screen, but having a few 36-inch screens, monitors works really well. The main one being the largest for you. On the right and the left-hand side, you're seeing some panels here, and down here is our set of plans that we're going to be doing our takeoff on. By the way, the system reads PDFs in their native format. So what that means is when you receive that PDF, there's no conversion to a TIFF file. It basically reads that in its native PDF format and takes about, I'd say about 30 seconds to load up 200 pages. So very quick, very fast, and you're up and moving. Up above here is what we call our trace library. And all of these are the things that you take off. It's a digital marker. It marks off the plans as you go through. Now there's lots of functionality within these panels that you can take advantage of. You can add these widgets on the fly and throw them in here, but we won't probably travel through most of those. If you have questions on those, definitely ask. Up on the ribbon up here, of course, everybody's getting used to the ribbon these days, but we have a quick access toolbar that we can work with for those functions that you do really quickly. Everything I'll hover over gives me a run through on the functionality, tells me what the shortcut keys are, so on and so forth. And by the way, shortcut keys, they're important. You can actually build them out the way you want, custom to each individual within your organization. We have a scale. Of course, we have the capability to add that scale, calibrate that scale, and imperial or metric. So we have that capability, and just to, like I said, calibrate the scale if you want to check the architect or the scale itself, make sure it's right. As I go into this view here, multiple drawing windows that we can open. So that's where it comes in handy to have all of those multiple monitors, at least 2 extra monitors. Well, let's say at least 1, and then we can put these over there. So I can have as many of these windows open as I want. There's no limit to that. And then as we jump over into drawing here, these are just some key things I want to point out as we go through. I'm going to go to this page here, and you're going to notice some borders right here. What those are a border for a scale. You can have as many detailed scales on one page as you want. So in this area right here, it's 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. Down here, it's 6 inches equals 1 foot. But the overall plan is a 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. As I zero in, scroll in, very easy to do, very easy to navigate. I'm going to apply a comparison. We of course get revisions, changes. Construction is synonymous with change, of course. when we look at this, we're going to show the differences between these two pages. Now, one thing I'm going to point out here is I've already sent this particular takeoff to the estimate. This will come in handy later on when I do this, but all I want to do is make a change to this takeoff because we've increased the countertop size. Let's move that in a little bit better and call it good. All right, so those are the key things I wanted to point out. Now let's do some quick takeoff here. When you look at it, if you're a unit price contractor and you need a square foot, a linear foot, these basic takeoffs will probably do the job for you. I'm just going to go ahead and hit this button right here, do that takeoff. That'll give me the point, the length, perimeter, and area of that takeoff. Always like to go around the horn here on this. We'll do takeoff right there. And the key to this is I'm going to reverse out that middle area. So let's say that that was going to be stamped concrete, it was going to be tile, whatever that may be, but we're going to remove the pool area from that. Very easily, we can go around these corners. And I will mention something to you as we progress with the solution. We're going to give you the capability in the very near future to just click in the middle of this and it will take off that whole pool. So we want to reduce the amount of clicks for you, and that's coming in the future. So in the very near future. So looking at that, we've taken out the pool, but we know it's going to be a takeoff, whatever that takeoff may be. So let's elevate your takeoff. Let's say that you're a contractor that gets into more detail. We want to know the materials. We want to know the depth of the concrete. We want to know all of that good stuff. Well, I'm going to go to advanced editing. And what it gives me the opportunity to do is fill in that pool perfectly, by the way. So when you look at that takeoff, you'll notice something that's a little bit different. And here's where we want to offer you guys safety nets. We want to offer all of the estimators that use our system a safety net so it alerts you to the fact that we've got more information that is needed. Matter of fact, as you get into the review process with the solution, you'll notice this E in here as well. So this gives me all of the takeoffs that are within the application, but this is a highlighter that'll say, hey, Darren, you need to make sure you enter the information for that takeoff. We're not going to leave any money on the table. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and enter that info. So when we look at it, think of these variables as the questions, the prompts that you would want to have prompt you during your takeoff. So in this case, the gravel, the sand is going to be 4 inches deep. It's going to be concrete. It's going to be 6 inches deep. What's the PSI? What's the strength of the concrete? So you determine what these variables are going to be, and you'll get prompted for them. But the key downstream from this is with the estimate, all of those answers mean something. It will generate that for the takeoff. So let's give you a little bit of flair for just one more. I'll do this wall right here just real quickly. And as you can see, there's my E. I enter this in, but of course, different questions. Stud spacing, what's the stud size? The number of corners, so on and so forth. If we're doing a drywall, what's that going to be as well? What's the thickness? Again, giving you kind of a flair for what questions, what variables you can ask along the way. So let's answer put some information in here. Let's call this wall and then say presentation. I'll say okay to that, and I'll do something for the pool as well. We'll go ahead and call it pool presentation. As you can see, my typing abilities, 30 words per minute, that's all I could ever do. So when we look at that, now we've got that takeoff done. So a couple other examples here of the abilities this system gives you. So I'm going to jump down here. I'm going to go to the 3rd floor. Now, if you do a repetitive takeoff, well, we want to give you the capability rather than have to take that off every time. Just go ahead and place this out on the page right there. You can, of course, perfect it and get it in exactly right there. The thing is with this is for every one of these takeoffs that you do here, we can make changes to those. So each one of those is a separate takeoff that we can make changes. Some solutions out there, you do that, you're stuck with what you get. Not with this solution here. The other thing is you could have global favorites. You apply the approved up there, whatever stamps, clouds, whatever those markings, those red lines that you make, we can do. So another thing with the solution is let's go ahead and go to my plumbing. Whatever you need to count, we want to give you the opportunity to count it very quickly, very efficiently. In this case right here, I want to go out and find all of these fire retention sprinkler heads right here. I'm going to name it by that. And let's go up here and look at that. There's sprinkler head. And I wanted to go out and find every one of those particular heads for me. Go search. And when it does that, I'm going to go out and find 92 of them. We can go review all of those. There we go. We can review all those, make sure that they're what we want. We can check them out on the drawing if we need to. And let's say that those are good. And I'll let Tony get into this more later on if you want to get more details. But here's the key to that, is we can search multiple pages at one time. So I can go through that same process with that same sprinkler head and have it search all of the pages for me at one time. So very quick, very efficient to make that happen for you. So we'll move back to the floor plan here. And now what we look at is being able to generate an estimate. So I'll go up here to go to my view, and we have a bridge that is a seamless integration with our estimating system. So you'll notice a few things in here. You've got all of these foundations that I found. By the way, this is linked to those particular items. So if I go to my foundations page, I can see all of those slabs that I've taken off. And I'm going to show a little bit more of that. You can see the details of all the variables that were answered for each one of those slabs if you want to see that. So at this point, I just want to go through the process of updating my estimate, creating the estimate for me. I just generated an estimate. We'll take a look at that in a minute at the very end, kind of use that as the end to this whole presentation. One thing is we look at the review process here within our bridge. This is everything that we have sent to the estimate. Matter of fact, if you want to check those things, we can hide everything that you've sent to the estimate on the plans as well. There's one key thing that we want to show here though. You'll notice this guy right here has a pencil mark. Well, if I double click on that, you'll remember that I made a change to this particular area right here, this hallway, and we're going to update the estimate. But here's the changes that we have between the two. Square foot of carpet, this is what it's gone from, this is what it's gone to. I just want to update the estimate. So I'll go through and do one more thing here as we look at the review here. Now we've updated the estimate. There's one more thing that happens, and it's kind of a huge differentiator within the system. Is let's say that we get an update to the scope of the project, whatever that may be. And let's say for all of these concrete slabs here, they've changed. We need to update them in the system. Well, you know those variables that we've answered. Well, what I want to do is I want to be able to, rather than going into each one of those takeoffs, make a change at a central point. Now you can either do it here, or maybe it happened to every slab in the entire project. So now I go up here and I say, well, every slab went from 5,000 PSI to 3,000 PSI. This gives you global capabilities to make the changes for 10-page, 200-page plan set. So up to you on that. I can say, let's apply that to all of those and say, okay. So with that being said, what we'll see, all of those have changed. So I want to make a change. I want to update the estimate, but let's look at one just so you can see it. Went from 5,000 to 3,000. So if any one of these would have changed, we would have been given that information right there. So here's going to be some notations that we're going to make, and we'll go ahead and call this presentation and notation. It's going to update the estimate for us. As we travel over to the estimate, all of those items have been generated for me. And what we can do is combine those so that we can see all of that detail, that information that we have right there. And it kind of was on one of the pages that had the sequence that I was going to show. Oh, and by the way, this is not the right view. We want this view. There we go. Labor, material, all colored up. That, here's the thing about the estimated solution is you do have the opportunity to use colors to designate those categories or whatever column you like. So I like to use those colors to give me those designations right there. But here is the estimate broken down. And of course, we have the capability to collapse all those, see those high level overline totals right there as well. Let's expand that. And let's go to that location. I kind of showed this earlier, but there's the pool for the presentation. So we can align any WBS code with our takeoffs as we do our takeoff. So whatever you do is defining those. It could be area, could be system, could be whatever you want, right? Gives you that capability right there. So looking at that, we've got the estimate. It's all broken out in the way that we want. Last but not least, when you get into your review process, and I will take a look on combining these, you'll notice that there is a marker in here, a highlighter. It is a triangle up in the upper left-hand corner. What that tells an estimator or anybody reviewing this spreadsheet is that came from our digital takeoff. Well, let's go ahead and move back to that particular area, whatever it may be, right-click, drill down, and it'll take us right back to that specific takeoff within the plans. So a seamless integration back and forth with the solution. So anything you take off automatically gets picked up, can create the estimate for you, and then in the review process or anytime really, we can go right back to where that exists in the plans. So that is a quick tour through the digital takeoff solution and also a quick look at the estimating application. Very quick, it was a glimpse, but giving you the opportunity to see the downstream output of what you're going to get from the eTakeoff application. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and toss this over to Tony to answer any questions or closing remarks.
All right, thank you, Darren, very much for that. So I'll just pause right here. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone. So, feel free to mute yourself or go ahead and ask any questions you may have at this point. I haven't seen any come through the chat that I wasn't able to field, so I went ahead and took care of those. But yeah, we'll just give everybody a minute or so. And yeah, and Darren, while we're doing that, could you just pop open one of those review assemblies?
Yeah, most definitely.
Just to see those changes again.
Yeah, let's do one thing before we do that. Just 1 second. Let's go back to the estimate.
If it's easy to find which one was changed.
Boom. Yeah, very easy to find. So as you can see, everybody that's on, remember how we changed the description when we sent that change over? It's going to highlight those changes for us. So whatever your descriptor would be, whatever your note may be when you're doing that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. So it doesn't look like or sound like anybody has any questions at this point. So with that, I do want to thank everybody very much for joining us today, and thank you, Mr. Pierce, for presenting the solution for us. So on the screen, you do see my direct contact information. In this day and age, my cell phone is the best way to get in touch with me. Email also works. So should you think of any questions or would like a personalized presentation, just one-on-one with me and your team, feel free to reach out. If not, I do want to wish everybody a great day, and thank you again, Darren, for your presentation today.
All right, have a good one, everybody.
Take care.